Have you ever pictured yourself just casually ordering a coffee in Paris or, actually chatting with the locals on a trip to Tokyo? Learning a new language is one of the most amazing things you can do, but let's be real, it can also be super frustrating. Well, today, we're going to crack the code and make that whole journey a lot easier to navigate.
You know how it goes. You start out all excited, you download a bunch of apps, maybe buy a book or two, but pretty soon you're just drowning in a sea of verb conjugations and grammar rules that make no sense. It feels totally chaotic, like you're just wandering around in the dark with no idea where you're going. But what if I told you there's an actual reliable map for this whole adventure? A guide that shows you not just the final destination, fluency, but all the important landmarks along the way. A map that lets you know exactly where you are at all times.
And here it is. This map is called the CEFR. It was originally developed in Europe, but now it's basically the global standard for figuring out how good someone is at a language. It takes this huge, messy goal of learning a language and lays it out as a clear step-by-step path.
So, how does this map actually work? Well, it breaks down that massive journey into 3 main stages, and each stage has its own clear goals and milestones.
So you start out as a basic user. That's the A levels. Then you graduate to being an independent user in the B levels. And finally, you can reach the very top as a proficient user, which are the C levels. Seriously, each one of these stages is a huge victory.
All right, let's start at base camp, the A levels. This is where absolutely everyone begins. It's all about building that solid foundation for everything else that's going to come later.
And check out how practical this is right from the get-go. At A1, you can already introduce yourself, ask someone their name and where they're from. By A2, you can handle basic, everyday things like buying groceries or asking for directions. See? This isn't about memorizing abstract grammar rules. It's about gaining real-world survival skills, right from day one.
And the words you start with, they're just as fundamental. This list is straight from the official Cambridge pre-A1 word list. We're talking family, house, water. It just goes to show you that those first steps aren't about learning a million obscure words, they're about mastering the absolute basics.
But let's talk about what this stage really feels like. This quote here just nails it. You're doing a lot of silent observation, just trying to soak it all in. And honestly, it can be exhausting. You're pointing at things, using body language, just grabbing onto any clue you can get. It's a tough phase, but it's so important.
Okay, so since this early stage can be such a mental drain, you have to be smart about how you build up your vocabulary. So let's talk about a couple of essential tools you need to pack in your toolkit.
Here is the absolute secret to making progress fast. Language learning is not about trying to memorize the entire dictionary. No way. It's about being strategic and putting your energy where it's going to have the biggest impact. Tool number 1, the frequency list. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a list of the most common words in a language, ranked by how often they're used. I mean, why would you learn the word for aardvark when you don't know the word for to go yet? Focusing on these high-frequency words gives you the biggest bang for your buck, period. It lets you understand a huge chunk of everyday conversation way faster.
All right, tool number 2 is an amazing shortcut, cognates. These are words in 2 different languages that look, sound, and mean pretty much the same thing. And get this, if you're an English speaker learning Spanish, something like 30 to 40% of English words have a related word in Spanish. That gives you a massive head start.
I mean, just look at these. Family becomes familia. Center, centro. Animal is animal. You see the connection instantly, right? This means you already know thousands of words in Spanish, or French, or Italian. And it's not cheating. It's just using the history of language to your advantage. Pretty cool.
So, once you've got those foundational tools packed, you start the real climb. Welcome to the B levels. This is where you really start to feel some independence.
At B1, you can travel and handle most situations that come up. You can talk about your experiences, your dreams, your opinions. And by B2, you're interacting with real fluency and spontaneity. This is that magic level where conversations really start to flow, and you can debate stuff without constantly pausing to search for a word.
Emotionally, this stage is a mixed bag. You're more aware of your mistakes, which can make you a little self-conscious. But at the same time, your skills are growing, which means you're much more willing to just jump in and start a conversation. You're not just an observer anymore, you're a participant.
So what does it actually take to get here? Well, to give you a ballpark idea, it's estimated that an English speaker needs somewhere around 560 to 650 total hours of instruction,
to hit a B2 level in a language like French. Now that might sound like a lot, but it shows you that this is a very real, very achievable goal if you just stay consistent.
And that brings us to the summit, the peak of the mountain, the sea levels. This is where you move beyond just being good at communication and into the realm of true mastery.
At C1, you're not just translating in your head anymore. You're actually thinking in the language. You get the jokes, the sarcasm, the stuff that people aren't saying out loud. And by C2, wow, you've reached a level where you can understand basically anything and express yourself with incredible precision, picking up on even tiny shades of meaning.
Here's the simplest way to think about it. The B levels are all about being an effective communicator. The C levels are about being a precise and nuanced one. It's the difference between making yourself understood and being truly eloquent.
So there you have it, the whole journey laid out right on our map. You start as a basic user at the A levels, building your foundation. You climb through the B levels to become an independent user. And you can go all the way to the C levels to become a truly proficient speaker.
So let's quickly recap what we've covered. First, learning a language doesn't have to feel like a total mess. The CEFR gives you a structured path to follow. Second, use that map. Figure out where you are and see where you're going next. Third, you can speed things up by using smart tools like frequency lists and cognates. And finally, remember to just embrace each stage for what it is. Every single one has its own challenges and its own amazing victories.
The path is clear, you've got the tools, and the adventure is waiting. The only question left is, where on this map are you going to go next? Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.